Hi and welcome to Voyage TV. I'm Gerard Murphy from Voyage Cruises and Travel, and we're joined as usual by Olivia Van Leerup.
Evening. How you doing?
Very good, thank you.
Good.
And Andy Bruce from Cunard Line.
Gerard.
Welcome, Andy.
Thank you.
You've been in before, but we're talking about Cunard.
Indeed.
It's a very special cruise line. We have on the show talked about Cunard before, and I think the viewers probably know it's 175 years old.
Exactly.
But it's a little bit different. There's only 3 ships in the Cunard Line.
Yep.
So give us a very brief rundown.
Very brief rundown. So it's one of the oldest cruise lines in the world, but it has the most modern fleet. So we've got the very famous Queen Mary 2, which is the only true ocean liner in the world, purely designed for that transatlantic run, which she does so well. And then we have the sister ships Queen Victoria and Queen Elizabeth, who do a whole range of cruising, the Mediterranean, the Baltic, world cruising, even the Caribbean.
Now, three ships, as you mentioned, they're very special.
Yes.
What are some of the other differences? New Zealanders perhaps think, oh, Cunard, I'm going to have to get really dressed up.
Yes, definitely. That is a concern of a lot of Kiwis, but never fear. It's not like that. It's very. It is formal in the evenings, but up to 6 p.m. You can be in shorts and jeans and casual wear around the ship. And then at 6 p.m. on an informal night, the gents would just wear a jacket and a shirt like this, and the ladies would be in stylish separates or a dress.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. He knows the stuff.
Stylish separates.
I'm all about the stylish separates. And then on a formal night, which is sort of 1 in 3 nights, there'll be a formal night where you get dressed up. You can have a dark suit with a tie, with a bow tie or a tie, and the ladies would be in cocktail dresses.
And that's actually a lovely part of it as well. It's you know, it's lovely to get all dressed up and.
Well, I've only been on board once, and I just loved the way the ladies particularly dressed up, and some of that jewellery.
Oh yes.
I had to ask one of the crew, and he said, "Don't worry, some of that is really real."
For sure, yes.
And some of it was costume jewellery, but I like the real stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a real difference about Cunard. It's people love dressing up. Yeah, it's great.
Now we see these wonderful ships down here, basically once a year when they come on their world cruise. And next year we've got Queen Victoria and Queen Elizabeth. Queen Mary 2 is only coming as close as Australia.
Very good.
But the other things that struck me was that it was almost a village atmosphere. It wasn't all one sort of strata of upmarket people. It was a good mix.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
I felt that the English people who are doing the really long, full 100-day cruise were very interested in us Antipodeans and what we were up to. But there was a good mix of Americans and Australians, New Zealanders. Is that generally the mix across sort of annually in the shorter cruises in the Mediterranean and places like that, or is it?
Yeah, it's quite it's quite a changing demographic. It's about half Brits on all types of cruising, and then 35% is Australians and Kiwis, and then the next one is I think about 10 to 15% Americans, and then the rest of it. So, and it used to be the Americans used to be a lot higher, but the Australians and New Zealanders are really coming on board with Cunard, which is fantastic. And they get on, so all the 3 ships all leave on a world cruise out of Southampton in early January, and they get to New Zealand and Australian waters around late February, early March. And then that's when we can get on and do shorter sectors. I know you've got a great deal on some of those, which we'll talk about later. But like you can jump on even for a few nights, 6 nights, Auckland, Bay of Islands, Sydney, for example, and just get a taste of it. And that gets you hooked on doing some longer ones.
You also mentioned Queen Mary 2 and the fabulous transatlantic voyages. I know someone that's been on one.
Yes, me.
Olivia was shouted by her employer.
Oh, very nice.
I was working though.
Yeah.
I was working, but I wasn't working a lot because it was early on in my employment, and I was kind of the spa therapist, so the massage therapist, and that sort of thing. And she didn't really like anyone around that she didn't know. So there was about 4 of us spa therapists on the Queen Mary with her. So they were always brought in to do all, all the work in the room, and I just got to enjoy the ride, really.
Wow.
Yeah, I think I probably did a couple of hours work.
It's luxury when you're going on the Queen Mary 2 that has a huge spa facility, and you bring your own.
She doesn't have to do any work.
Yeah.
Excellent.
She had a huge concierge. She brought all her own cleaners and everything on board. She doesn't want anybody else touching her stuff.
That's overcool.
Yeah.
Wow.
But good for business. There was about 10 people. So briefly just tell us about transatlantic. How long does that take, and
So it's
when do they operate?
It's a 7-day voyage, and you have options pretty much throughout the year, but the main season is sort of May to November. And you can obviously do Southampton to New York or vice versa. But voyaging or sailing into New York is one of those bucket list kind of itineraries. It's something very, very special. Were you out on deck for that moment when you were coming in?
I think we were probably all busy actually packing her bags and that sort of stuff at that stage. Yeah, we were actually doing a little bit of work.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Tough. Now, Queen Mary 2 has just been into dry dock and had a little bit of money spent on her.
A fraction, a small amount. Yes, it's the most expensive dry dock or refurbishment in Carnival Corporation history. A whopping £60 million, which is amazing.
A lot of money.
Because she's such a unique one-off ship, so you did a sort of one-off dry dock, which was in France, and that was back in May, so she's looking very, very fresh now.
Just fresh.
Yeah.
We've got a very short video, and I just want to show people this because you don't appreciate how big the ship is until you see little men standing beside the ship in the dry dock. So have a quick look at this. £60 million sounds like more than just a lick of paint, new bedspreads and curtains.
Yes. Yes, it was very...
What else did they do?
It's a very comprehensive dry dock and refurbishment. So there's 50 new cabins went on board, and obviously a growing market for Cunard is solo travellers. So there's some single cabins in there. All the suites, all the grill suites have been refurbished, and a big chunk of the money went on the King's Court, which is the buffet, which was looking a bit dated now, and it's just been brought right up to date. It looks fantastic.
So we've got Queen Elizabeth coming to Auckland, leaving Los Angeles in February. So you've kindly not forced New Zealanders to do 104 days, I think the cruise is. They can do some shorter sectors.
Certainly can.
And we've got a great one there from San Francisco to Auckland. So we've put it together as a fly cruise. So we fly people up to San Francisco, 3 nights at the Grand Hyatt Hotel, and they get to sail out of the Golden Gate, which is
fabulous. Yeah.
And I've been in San Francisco when ships have been going out. It's the archetypal type of picture that you're going under the Golden Gate Bridge, through the Golden Gate itself, and you're out in the Pacific, down to Hawaii, Honolulu and Lahaina, and we're going into Apia and Nuku'alofa on the way to Auckland. That is a 17-night cruise, all up 20 nights fly cruise, and it's only from $5,000.
How much?
That's amazing.
You sure that's not a typo, Jerry?
No,
That's amazing. That is
you guys gave us the deal, we had it there first.
It is a fantastic deal. I like what you've done with the packaging. But yeah, that's a great sector. Very popular to do the Pacific on a Queen. And Queen Elizabeth is my favourite first Cunard ship I went on.
I think seeing a Cunard ship at the Aloha Tower in Honolulu would be very special as well.
Yes.
It'd fit. It'd look good
for sure. Yeah, it'd
and
be good.
Stop there and go catch the bus along there if you want to, or a taxi down to Waikiki Beach and relax for a day.
Sounds terrible.
But the other good thing with Cunard ships and long cruising like this is a lot of this is about the time on board.
For sure.
How are we going to fill our day?
Oh, well, for those of you new to cruising, every day you get a timetable on your ship, so you know everything that's going on from the day. Normally you get lots of morning exercise in the morning, take a little walk around the promenade deck or do a yoga class.
Oh, yes.
Well, for me, it's walk all the way to breakfast.
Oh, yes, eating. We should talk about eating, yes. Obviously, lots of restaurants on board. I always put on about 4 kilos every time I step foot on a ship. But we've got the theatres. The great thing about Cunard is the insights lectures. We get some really great lectures on board, historians and locals talking about their destination. And even on some of the sectors, we get some astronauts and secretaries of state and some really
that's really
high-end
cool.
speakers, which is fantastic. Famous for our shows as well. And what else is there?
I know
blank.
one that I like, and a lot of people like, and you can do this every day.
Oh, high tea.
High tea in the ballroom.
Lovely.
This is a very, very famous Cunard tradition dating all the way back. So 3 p.m. every day is high tea with your cucumber sandwiches.
Full
and
white gloves.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
very
Oh,
classy.
beautiful.
It's very nice. And Dilmar tea, the whole range of Dilmar teas.
Very
and
nice.
classical music, and that's in the Queen's Room, which is our famous ballrooms at sea.
Oh, wow.
So you can do all of that in February, starting from San Francisco on the 21st of February, from $4,995 for an inside cabin, just $5,495 for an ocean view cabin, and $5,995, so under $6,000 for a balcony cabin.
That is
Wow.
amazing.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Now there may be some people who still don't have enough time to do all of that, so we love this because it's what I call a taster. 5 nights from Auckland to Sydney. We've done that with 2 nights accommodation in Sydney and flying home, or 7 nights into Sydney, have a night in Sydney on the ship, and then go up to Brisbane. That's a 7-night cruise with 2 nights in Brisbane. That starts from just over $2,000, $2,089.
Another bargain. Yeah, that's a great one. So
Bargain.
that's the continuation of that sector. So on
Yeah.
to Australia. So it goes Auckland via the Bay of Islands. So you get a beautiful day in the Bay of
Oh,
Islands.
nice.
That's a tender port. And you come into Waitangi. And last year I did that, and we got the ferry over to Russell, and it was fabulous, beautiful day. And then across the Tasman, which is...
Yes, 2 days across the Tasman to experience all that wonderful
Yeah.
on-board service.
Oh, definitely, definitely. And
And a massage if you need.
I'm going to be on this one too, Gerard. So,
Are you?
Yeah.
There you go. We will,
Lovely.
no extra charge. Andy will be on board.
I see here you've got a sweet deal as well. Can you tell us about that?
It is a very sweet deal. So yes, it's quite interesting with Cunard. It's a little bit different from other cruise lines. So how it works is the cabin that you purchase will determine where you eat on the ship. So there's different levels. So I sort of explain it as sort of an economy, business, and a first class option.
Yeah.
So or maybe a premium economy, business and first.
Yeah, we don't start because there's no economy.
Yeah.
So if you're in an inside, outside, or a balcony cabin, then you dine in the main Britannia restaurant, which is a fabulous double-level restaurant, which is wonderful, and it has 2 sittings, an early and a late sitting. And then if you are in the next step up is a Princess Grill, and this is all a suite accommodation, and then you'll dine in the Princess Grill dining room, which is about 250 capacity, so it's a lot more private, and the heathens in the Britannia restaurant can't come up to that one. And then the next level up is the Queen's Grill, which is the sort of top banana, and that is you get your own butler and minibar, and there's very, very nice sort of duplex suites, and you'll dine in the Queen's Grill restaurant, which is the top one. So if you're in a Princess or a Queen's Grill suite, you're in those restaurants, and it's just a single seating, and you have also private deck areas and private lounges as well.
Yeah.
So it sort of harks back to the good old days.
Yeah.
It's a fabulous experience.
Oh,
yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah, there's a lovely courtyard area for those suite people, so it's sort of like the Koru Club on board. It's a nice little private lounge and indoor-outdoor flow. It's very
Yes,
smart.
Very, very pleasant.
So as Olivia said, we have got a suite deal on these Trans-Tasman sectors. So we've coupled one of the Princess Grill suites with a premium economy airfare home and a suite at the hotel in Sydney or Brisbane. So that's for the Sydney 7 nights package, it's $4,595, and Brisbane $6,155. And if you want to finish off and upgrade yourself totally for the whole trip, change to business class for another $309 on the flight home.
That's fantastic.
Wow, you'd do that, wouldn't you?
Definitely. And it's a fantastic 5-star product, but obviously not a 5-star price.
No, that's what we like.
Indeed.
That's why there are now 35% of Cunard's passengers are Australians and New Zealanders.
Yeah.
Indeed. It's very, very affordable, very accessible.
We'll take a short break, and after the break, we'll finish off with our East Coast USA visitor who came down to New Zealand, telling us all about their wonderful area. So we have a couple more interviews there, and then we'll be back.
Ed and Vivo, we've got the biggest crush on Graham Norton. So we flew all the way to his place so he could have a crush on us. Graham Norton's own Sauvignon Blanc. Southern Hemisphere grapes meet Northern Hemisphere fab.
We're now joined by Susan, who has got a very interesting company. I saw this on the internet earlier in the day. You run a company called the Cog Railway in
The White Mountains of New Hampshire.
the White Mountains, New Hampshire. I knew that and then went blank.
It's been a long day.
Now, I saw this, it intrigued me because it looks to be about 45 degrees straight up the side of a hill.
Well-
Tell me more.
We are the oldest mountain climbing cog train in the world. If you're familiar with Mount Rigi in Switzerland, that is our design. A gentleman named Sylvester Marsh in 1866 took a hike up Mount Washington, which is the highest peak in the Northeast. It's 1,919 meters, and he hit bad weather and said there has to be a better way to get to the summit of this mountain. So what he did is he went to the legislature and he said, I would like permission to be able to build a railway. And they thought he was an insane person. So they said to him, we think, okay, fine. You have permission to build a railway to the moon because you just can't do it because the incline was so steep. So undeterred, he decided that's what he was going to do. And 3 years later, with the help of 200 men, he built the railway. And on July 3rd, 1869, we took our maiden voyage, not me, and President Garfield was, about 3 weeks later, he took the railroad, and it is a wooden track. It goes to the summit. It is a 6-mile round trip. And a cog, for those of you who don't know, is different from a regular railroad in that is instead of riding on the wheels going up the track, it has a cog gear that rides on a rack and pulls it up the train. Exactly. The reason for that we use it is because the grade is so steep. We have a trestle called Jacob's Ladder, which is the second steepest trestle work in the world. It's a 37.4% grade, which means the person in the front of the car is 14 feet higher than the person in the very last seat. My husband and myself and another couple are the owners of the railroad. We've had it since 1983. The other unique thing about our cog railway is we build everything right there. We build all the engines and all the coaches.
I saw you had your own workshop, so
We do.
you're doing everything.
We have 6 gentlemen who do all of our building, and it's not just that they are 12 months out of the year building engines and building coaches. They also work on our trains, taking passengers up the hill. So it really is a multitasking thing. We have about 50 employees, and they work nonstop. What most people think of with the cog is coal-fired steam, and that takes a ton of coal and 1,000 gallons of water to go to the summit and come back. In 2007, we kind of decided that we wanted to be a little more eco-friendly, so we designed and built a biodiesel engine. And that same biodiesel engine takes 17 gallons of biodiesel fuel to make the exact same trip. So we still run the steamer as the first train of the day, but we augment the rest of the train trips with the biodiesel, and we run a train every hour and a half hour.
the biodiesel one has to be lighter as well.
It's not, actually. No, the trains weigh just about the same amount with all the gearage and everything. It has to be pretty heavy in order to keep it on the track. You have to do that. Exactly. Our coaches are 70-passenger wooden coaches. The woodwork, it's absolutely stunning when you see the woodwork. That we have some really talented craftsmen, and it's a dying art. My dad was a tool and die cast machinist, so it's something that's very dear to me. So it's something with everything, the internet and everything that's electronic, it's something that is really dying. So we're very proud of it.
It's back in time. So,
It is back in time.
so how did you end up buying it?
My husband is from that area. He grew up in Sugar Hill, and it's something that's always been there. And we were approached. My husband and I are both lawyers. I went from divorce work.
It's a change of career.
I went from divorce work to selling bus tours, and I'm not sure how that happened, but it's something that the four of us are all very on-site owners. It's not just a financial investment. We work every day in the business, and we've improved it. We've added a lot of safety features. We have grown the business. We've done an incredible amount of forward thinking.
And it's every day? Open every
Our season is from the first week in May until the first weekend in December. May, we basically run on weekends because the demand just isn't there. Once we get to June and it's vacation season, then we run every day, every hour and a half hour. When we get to the end of October, we run weekends again.
Oh, it's a big commitment, but it sounds like you get a few months off, so not too bad.
And then I'm traveling. I'm here.
I don't know if we've got any cog railways in New Zealand, but there's a very interesting small railway in Coromandel, which is about 50 miles
Okay.
to our east, and that was a guy that just built it himself to get his pottery clay down from the hills.
So yeah, he decided there had to be an easier way to do it, so that's why he did it. And is it still running now?
Yes, absolutely.
And how old is it?
About 30 years old.
Oh, okay.
40 years old.
Okay, good. Well, great.
So if you get more time, next time you come back.
Next time I come back, next year when I come back,
Yeah.
I'll go and visit that.
Well, thank you for joining
Thank
us.
you
It's been
very
very
much.
interesting.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Come and see us.
Will do.
Thanks.
Welcome back, and there is a link between East Coast USA and Cunard, of course, when they're
Yes.
sailing into New York on one of your lovely ships.
Yeah, with the
Particularly Commemorative.
Statue of Liberty in the background. Great photo opportunity. Fantastic.
Yeah, so there's a lot to do in that area, and obviously a transatlantic is going to be
Oh, yeah.
coupled with a much bigger trip, which we can put together for them, of course.
You can package it up
Package it up.
wonderfully.
Absolutely. So now we're going to go from ships and voyages to aircraft and airlines and airports.
And in fact, we're going to talk about one of the shortest runways in the world.
Okay, what have you found?
Very exciting. Saba in the Caribbean is billed as one of the world's shortest runways at approximately 400 metres long. Pilots describe landing on this exposed air strip of tarmac as more akin to touching down on an aircraft carrier. The runway is located high above the surrounding ocean with precipitous drops on 3 sides.
But I'm sure you found other dodgy airports. that
Yes,
we can
yes,
talk
there's
about.
a few. Matakane in Lesotho is located high in the mountains. Takeoffs here are not for the faint-hearted, as lying at the end of the bumpy airstrip is a 2,000-foot drop, and, depending on wind conditions, aircrafts have been known not to make it into the air before reaching the end of the meagre 405-metre runway. Wow.
They could be a bit scary. Just drop off the end and hope it starts.
Oh my God. Exciting. At Tenzing Hillary Airport, Lukla, Nepal, there is no room for pilot error during takeoff and landing at this high altitude airport. The dramatic approach involves navigating a tight route through the mighty mountains of the Himalayas and then immediately on touchdown, slamming on the propellers into reverse in an attempt to avoid crashing into the mountainous wall of rock at the end of the runway. Takeoffs are just as nerve-wracking as aircrafts thunder down the sloping runway in an attempt to take to the skies before encountering the steep drop at the other end. Wow, that sounds very exciting. The Isle of Barra, Scotland, offers not so much a touchdown but a splashdown at the world's only beach airport for scheduled flights. Flight times are dictated by the tide and the runway is washed away each evening.
And this is with real British Airways aircraft. Little
Wow.
ones, but it's a British Airways flying there.
That's incredible. At Courchevel Airport, only certified pilots are permitted to land at this high altitude airstrip in Saint-Bon-Tarentaise region of the French Alps. The short, steep and sloping runway at a gradient of 18.5% has been designed so that aircrafts are slowed down on landing. The approach to the airport is via deep valleys and the mountainous weather conditions make for extremely hazardous flying conditions. Good old Wellington, where conditions are exceptionally difficult owing to the short runway, a tricky approach through hilly landscape and frighteningly strong crosswinds that can make for a terrifyingly turbulent landing. Oh, we're in there.
Yes, I have
Good
to
on
say I've
New
had any
Zealand.
scary landings. It's been going into Wellington.
Yeah.
Where you're coming across the water and you're sure that your wingtip just touched the waves. And the
Yeah, a little
Wellingtonians
bit
probably think we're
disconcerting.
all wimps. It's just half of the course.
And from windy Wellington now, we're going to beautiful sunny Spain. And we are
Excellent.
talking about umbrella wars.
Oh, good.
It's not always easy finding a patch of sand on Spain's popular beaches, but authorities are getting wise to tourist tricks. A crackdown on sandhoggers is sweeping across Europe as Spanish authorities follow their Italian counterparts in fining tourists who reserve spots on the beach for their mates. Earlier this month, authorities in popular Italian beach destinations started issuing fines and confiscating beach chairs and lounges from greedy beachgoers, reserving prime spots on the busy coastlines.
Now, that doesn't happen on Cunard, does it?
Yeah. Now, authorities in Spain are following suit, fining tourists up to a whopping €720 for the same infuriating behaviour. In what has been dubbed the Umbrella Wars, in the local media, beachgoers at a number of Spanish resorts have been using umbrellas, deck chairs and other beach furniture to stake their claim on the beach early in the morning and then disappear for hours. And it's happening in a growing number of Spanish resorts. In Gandia near Valencia, a local councillor told Spanish newspaper El Pay enough was enough. We've decided to go one step further and have local police remove these objects which are turning a public space into a private space in the earliest hours of the morning, Councillor Jose Manuel Preto said. Not every part of Spain has welcomed the crackdown. However, in Torrox on Spain's southern coast, where it costs €30 to recover a confiscated umbrella, authorities have struggled to gain the public support. The last time we enforced the rule, there were people yelling insults at police from the balconies, local police officer Pablo Escobar told El Pay. But Escobar is resolute. There are people that go to eat around midday and leave their things on the beach or cool off with a nap in their house and come back around 6 or 7 p.m. And we're taking action.
Absolutely. Did you see how crowded those beaches are, though?
I know, it's crazy there.
It's not Whangamata, is it?
No, not quite. A long way
And
from
it's
it.
certainly not one of your Cunard ships, because
plenty of lounges on those.
plenty of lounges, and I'm sure there's not too many battles.
I thought it was the Germans where we had the issues with the towels and the lounges, but obviously not.
Probably, yeah, I think it's Europe-wide now. It's Europe-wide. But here in New Zealand, we've got wide open spaces, nice sandy beaches, and
Indeed.
we don't really bother too much with umbrellas. Everyone's just enjoying the sun.
Exactly.
Now, before we go, Andy, it's customary for our guests to receive a bottle of wine from our sponsors.
Oh, marvellous.
So, small bottle of Graham Norton Sauvignon Blanc from Invivo. Thank you very much for coming in.
My pleasure, Gerard. Thank you.
And enjoy that. And with that, it's time for us to go. So, we'll see you again soon. In the meantime, bon voyage.
Bon voyage.